Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Joan Vassos' unforgettable moment with seniors in assisted living. Joan Vassos and some of her golden bachelorette suitors went to prom on the latest episode of the popular TV show. The event was a huge hit, so Joan decided to throw another prom. But this time she celebrated with seniors living in an assisted living facility. Stay on this page for all the details. Theresa Nist gives former Golden Bachelor rival advice. Theresa Nist's love with Jerry Turner didn't last long, but she had some advice for Joan Vassos. Both ladies were contestants on the first Golden Bachelor season. Joan left after a few episodes to deal with a family matter. Theresa went on to get engaged, marry, and divorce Jerry Turner in less than a year. Theresa spoke to the New York Post about Joan's season. She said that the network made the right choice. Theresa shared this advice with Joan. So what we talked about was that she was going to give every single man her undivided attention so that she would really see if there was a connection. That's what we talk about. The Golden Bachelor alum added that Joan takes the role very seriously. What an incredible spot to be in. And she realizes it. She knows what an opportunity this is, and she knows she represents women everywhere. That includes women living in assisted living. Joan Vassos' unforgettable moment with seniors in assisted living. The magic of prom isn't just for high schoolers. Thanks to the kindness of Golden Bachelorette star Joan Vassos, a group of seniors in the Bristol assisted living facility got to experience the joy of this special night. Vassos hosted a prom just for them, complete with all the glitz and glamour of a traditional prom. According to BachelorNation.com, the living area was decked out with balloons, streamers, and other prom-themed decorations. The event included finger foods and a charcuterie spread. There was also a prom court to name the facility's prom king and queen. The prom king revealed that he never went to his high school prom. One senior resident couldn't stop gushing over Joan Vassos. So friendly, so warm, so nice. I can see why you picked her. Another praised the event. I didn't expect this. The food is good and the costumes are lovely, they said. In addition to the makeshift prom, the seniors watched an episode of The Golden Bachelorette with Joan Vassos. Watch the video of the seniors living their best lives at their prom. In a small town nestled among rolling hills and towering trees, Joan Vassos experienced something that would stay with her forever. It was a chilly autumn morning when she arrived at Willow Creek Assisted Living, her heart buzzing with excitement and a bit of apprehension. Joan had always felt a deep connection to older generations. There was something about their wisdom, their stories, and the way they carried the weight of years in their laughter and tears that resonated deeply with her. But this day, she had no idea she was about to be part of something truly extraordinary. Joan, a dedicated volunteer for many years, had started visiting Willow Creek once a week, leading activities like arts and crafts, book discussions, and even a few sing-alongs. Despite her busy schedule as a full-time nurse, she made time for these visits, knowing how important that they were to the seniors living there. Many of them had family members who visited sporadically, and some had no one left to visit at all. Joan knew her presence meant more to them than she could ever realize. But on this particular day, what began as a simple visit would evolve into a profound connection, a day of shared memories and emotions that would leave an indelible mark on her heart. #, the routine of life at Willow Creek. Willow Creek was home to around 60 residents, each with a unique story. Some were fiercely independent, others struggled with memory loss or physical disabilities, but they all shared one thing: a longing for connection. Joan could see it in their eyes whenever she walked in. It was a place where days tended to blur together, a mixture of routine and loneliness that weighed heavy on many of the residents. She was greeted by Mary, one of the facility's nurses, who gave her a warm smile as always. "Good to see you, Joan. They've been asking about you all morning. They're in the lounge." Joan smiled back and made her way to the lounge, where about a dozen seniors were sitting. Some were chatting softly, others stared out the window at the fiery autumn leaves, and a few were dozing in their chairs. As Joan entered, their faces lit up. Joan's visits were more than just a break in the monotony. They were moments of joy, of life. "Good morning, everyone," Joan called out, her voice cheerful. "Good morning, Joan," came a chorus of replies, some stronger than others, but all genuine. Today's activity was meant to be a simple craft session where they would decorate small pumpkins for Halloween. Joan had brought paints, glitter, and stickers, anticipating an hour of laughter and creativity. But as the pumpkins were distributed and the group began painting, something unexpected happened. Hashtag, 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 the moment that changed everything. Seated near Joan was Mr. Bennett, a quiet man in his late 80s. He had always been polite but reserved, rarely engaging in conversation beyond pleasantries. Joan knew that Mr. Bennett had once been a musician, an accomplished pianist, as she had been told, but she hadn't heard him speak of his musical past and she'd started coming. Today, however, something was different. As he carefully painted his pumpkin, Mr. Bennett began humming softly. Joan's ears perked up. It was a melody she recognized, an old jazz standard, Autumn Leaves. She couldn't help but smile. "Mr. Bennett, that's a beautiful song. Do you still play the piano?" He looked up from his pumpkin, his eyes shimmering with the light of a memory. "I haven't played in years," he said quietly. "Not since my hands started to fail me." Joan felt a tug at her heart. She knew how much music could mean to someone, especially someone like Mr. Bennett, who had dedicated his life to it. The thought of him no longer being able to play was a sorrow she couldn't fully comprehend. But then an idea came to her. "We have a piano in the lounge, don't we?" she asked, looking over at Mary, who was now standing by the door. Mary nodded. "We sure do. It's a bit out of tune, but it's there." Joan turned to Mr. Bennett. "Would you like to give it a try, just for a little while?" For a moment, it looked like he might refuse. He hesitated, looking down at his hands, weathered and worn from age. But then something shifted in his expression, and he gave a small nod. Joan stood up, extending her arm to help him to his feet. As Mr. Bennett made his way to the piano, the other residents looked on curiously. The room fell silent as he sat down on the bench, his hands hovering above the keys for a moment before descending to touch them. The first notes were soft, tentative, as if he was testing the waters of an old, forgotten river. But then, as if something awoke within him, his fingers began to dance across the keys. The sound of autumn leaves filled the room, rich and full, despite the piano's slightly out-of-tune condition. The effect was instantaneous. The residents who had been dozing woke up with smiles on their faces. A few began humming along, and others simply closed their eyes and let the music wash over them. Joan stood to the side, tears welling up in her eyes. It was as if the years had melted away from Mr. Bennett, and for a few precious minutes he was young again, lost in the music that had once been his life. A wave of memory. As the song came to an end, there was a soft round of applause from the room. But what followed was even more magical. One by one, the other residents began to share their own memories, sparked by the music. Mrs. Thompson, who rarely spoke, told a story about the time she had danced with her late husband to that very song. Mr. Garcia reminisced about the jazz clubs he used to visit in his youth, his eyes twinkling with nostalgia. And then there was Mrs. Aldridge, who had been diagnosed with early-stage dementia. Her memory had been slipping away, bit by bit. But in that moment, she suddenly remembered a long-forgotten night in Paris where she had heard Autumn Leaves played on a street corner. The details of that evening had been lost to her until now. But as she recounted the story, it was as vivid as if it had just happened. Joan listened, her heart full, as these stories poured out. What had started as a simple craft session had become a profound moment of connection. One where music had unlocked memories and emotions that had been hidden away for years. It was a moment of joy, of shared humanity, and Joan was grateful to have been a part of it. Leaving an imprint. When the day came to an end and Joan prepared to leave, she couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Mr. Bennett had returned to his room, a small smile on his face, and the other residents were still talking about their memories. Joan realized that her visits were about much more than just filling time. They were about creating moments of connection, about helping these seniors reclaim pieces of themselves that time had tried to steal away. As she walked out into the crisp autumn air, Joan knew she would never forget this day. It was a reminder of the power of music, of memory, and of human connection. It was an unforgettable moment, one that would stay with her for the rest of her life.